Hello. Welcome to the second Nansen webinar, which is on how to win the altcoin season on Solana. It's great to be here for the holiday season to catch up with you all. Drop your GMs in the chat. Great time for crypto at the moment, so look forward to having all of you join today. My name is Charlie. I lead growth here at Nansen. I've been with Nansen for 3 years, but got into crypto in early 2016. At Nansen, I work with a lot of top VCs, hedge funds, high net worth individuals to help them get more value out of their Nansen subscription and ultimately to help our customers to win on chain. So before I share a little bit more about why we are here today and what we'll be diving into, I'll pass it over to James to share a bit about himself as well.
Thank you very much, Charlie. My name is James, and similar to Charlie, part of my role is in customer success for our professional users. On top of that, I'm a community manager for our Alpha Discord. A bit about me. I got into crypto in 2021. Like a lot of us here today, I lost all my money in 2021 trading crypto. So this cycle, I'm back. I'm with Nansen, and I'm going to get it all back and more. Anyway, Charlie, I'll give it back to you.
Love it, James. Since you've joined Nansen, you've been crushing it left, right, and center. So I think even that goes to show just how powerful the Nansen platform can be. So I hope everyone else here today is winning in these markets as well. And it's great to see Bitcoin holding over the 100K mark. But all right, so the purpose of today's webinar, again, is on how to win the altcoin season on Solana. Solana has been going pretty ballistic over the last few months, and a lot of the attention has been focused there. We've just recently kicked off this new webinar initiative. About a fortnight ago, we hosted our first, which was about how to become a Solana Pro on Nansen. We have some new interesting workflows and features up our sleeves today, which we'll be taking you all through. So I'll share my screen and we can actually take a look at the Nansen platform together. James, can you just confirm for me that you can see Nansen?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay, I think it should be coming up. All right, James, can you see it now?
Yes, absolutely. Are you able to make it full screen?
I zoom in a touch. I hope that is all right. I'm just on the one monitor, so.
Yeah, slightly better.
Slightly better? Okay. I'll try to zoom in. I'll zoom in one more and we'll try to roll with that. So just so everyone can see.
Even,
all right.
Do you mind collapsing the left nav bar?
Yes. Okay. Now we're seeing the
full
beauty in that. Love to see it. Thanks for that, James. Okay. So for those of you that are new to Nansen, a quick high level view of what it's all about. Nansen is an on-chain platform for investors that just focuses on on-chain data. So we are a tool that's used by like very sophisticated investors in crypto, all the way down to retail investors as well. So there's a little bit of everything for everyone who is looking to be active in the crypto markets. So generally, Nansen is used for 3 key investment goals. The first is around discovery. So you can use Nansen to discover token opportunities, and we're going to be focusing on altcoins today. You can also use Nansen to discover really profitable addresses or whales that you might like to follow in the footsteps of to become a better crypto investor. Once you've found a token or once you've found an address, you can also perform due diligence. So do you know if that altcoin that you've discovered is actually a good or not? Or how do you know if the address that you might choose to follow is actually someone you want to follow in the footsteps of? Then it's, once you've done that due diligence, it's also about defense. So how do you know when to potentially exit your positions as well? Really, what powers these 3 investment goals is Nansen's wallet labeling. So Nansen has more than 350 million wallets labeled across a number of different chains. And these labels can help you to understand if an address might be associated with a really popular KOL, maybe it's Ansem, maybe it's Murad, or you can know if an address is associated with a fund. So a fund that is dedicated to generating returns for their investors. Can also be based on their profitability, etc., and their behavior on chain. And we'll dive a bit deeper into these wallet labels today. Then secondly, and almost more importantly, we have the concept of smart money. So of those 350 million wallets that have been labeled, the most profitable 10,000 of them are assigned this little nerd emoji here. And on Solana, it's actually only 500. So it's the most profitable 500 addresses. Hey, James.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm not sure, did you point out the nerd emoji there? Did you jump to the smart money dashboard? Because if you did, we can't see.
Not just yet. Still on here.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you though. Appreciate it. So yeah, on Solana, it's specifically the 500 most profitable address. It's really the cream of the crop, and you can use Nansen to track as one segment what smart money are buying and selling on chain, potentially giving you ideas of where you might like to invest or trade as well. So today we're going to really focus on how to find these undervalued altcoins. Then secondly, it's going to be about how do you build conviction around a token once you've potentially discovered it using Nansen or elsewhere. And then lastly, will be on how to win sectors and narratives in crypto. Sectors are one of the ways that people really win in crypto, by following whether it's AI, whether it's DeSci, whether it's DePIN, something else. And you can use Nansen to track specifically tokens that fall into these different sectors. So before I dive too deep, I do also want to share that we are running a end of year discount campaign. There should be a little QR code up in the top corner, which you can scan throughout this call, and that will give you 25% off an annual Pioneer subscription. So quite a great saving on that front. Before we dive too deep into Nansen, I wanted to share the success of our our last webinar, because we covered 2 tokens in the last webinar that did very well. Both did more than a 5, and potentially by following these webinars and future webinars, we may continue to find these opportunities. So do tune into this call for the remainder, and who knows, you might find your next 5 or 10x yourself. So we found Thana, which is a DEX on BNB chain. And here I'm looking at token God mode, which is one of our features that really zooms into a particular, and you can understand more about smart money activity on this specific token, the balance distribution, and much, much more. So what we found is that there was a fund that was buying quite large amounts of Thana on DEXs just but one day before the token was listed on Binance. Let's take a look into the price after it was listed on Binance. We had the webinar down here on the 26th of November. This is when Sky9 Capital started buying with size. And one day later, the token went from 20 cents all the way up to $4. And we covered this in the last webinar. We did, and I'll show you how. We can scroll down just a little bit and we can see live the DEX trades that are happening for this specific token. Here I can select smart money and I can go regular date to show you. Let's go the 25th to the 26th. We'll just plug in the 27th just so we can capture everything. If we look at the DEX trades live, you can see Sky9 Capital, who was that fund, buying Thana, 15,000, 15,000, 3,000, 3,700, 30,000, 30,000. So maybe they knew something that we didn't know. Maybe they knew that the Binance listing was about. And with Nansen, you can know that this address is from Sky9 Capital. Without Nansen, you'd have no idea. It just looks like another regular crypto address, OX, blah, 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 blah. But with Nansen's labels, you can see this is a fund. And this activity we highlighted in the last webinar. Moving on from there, another token, we also found UBC, which was down here. We noticed this on the smart money tab, and we saw smart money live trades, which is a very, very popular feature where you can stare out into the whole DEX universe and understand what these smart money addresses are buying and selling in real time. Here we saw that there were like quite decent sized purchases of UBC, and it also popped up on our token screener, which is a really great discovery dashboard that can help you to track smart money inflows into certain tokens. UBC by far the highest inflow compared to any other tokens. And it again just shows that using Nansen can help you to spot these opportunities the rest of the market does. You can spot tokens when they're down here. And then ideally you'd sell at the very tippity top. And here it was spotted here and it ran all the way there. So let's hope we can discover some very interesting opportunities. But enough from me. I will be back to talk a bit more about how to build conviction on certain tokens. But otherwise, I'm going to hand this over to James, who will share a bit more. Thank you. Where's James? Is James got? Oh, there he is.
I think. One sec.
Are you able to share your screen?
Yeah, I think it should be coming up now. Yes,
there we go.
Perfect. Here we go. Okay.
James, would you be able to zoom in just a little bit? I see Boris in the chat has been mentioning that it's a little bit hard to see some things. So
yeah, let me know how this is. Maybe that's
yeah,
a bit too.
That looks good. But over to you, James. Take it away.
Perfect. Okay, so today I am going to be discussing how to find undervalued altcoins. How do we find altcoins that may have a potential to experience price appreciation? The two things I'm going to be looking at are token screener and our AI signals. And first off here, we have token screener. And the way I like to think about this is it's almost like a filtration system for finding undervalued altcoins. We've a lot of, let's say, we have a lot of filters here. If you take a look here, we've micro caps, small caps, mid caps, large caps. We can go by token age, and then we can also filter by other things like the number of buyers, sellers, and then inflows and outflows. But you might be thinking, okay, how do we find the undervalued altcoins? And for me, my favorite way to go about this is the smart money filter. And actually, I notice I just have these on here. Okay, so I'm looking at all altcoins on Solana that are in between a $1 million market cap and a $50 million market cap. And over here, we have the total inflow of smart money. And sometimes people get tripped up on what an inflow for smart money is. And the way I like to think about it is, if you think of, as Charlie mentioned earlier, we have 10,000 smart money addresses. If we made them into one entity and we see money flowing into those addresses, again, think of them as one whole entity, that's a smart money inflow. Doesn't matter how many addresses it went to, we treat it as one smart money entity. Hopefully that makes sense there. So the token screener is relatively new, and one of the new ways we've started looking at it is comparing the smart money inflow to the FDV. So a lot of the time, well, by default, you can see here that we rank by the total smart money inflow. What I like to do personally is look for the inflow compared to the FDV. So if we rank by this, we get a different picture. We see how meaningful are those inflows. Because let's say if a $50 million market cap has $1 million of smart money inflow, it's not as meaningful as if a $10 million market cap has $1 million of smart money inflows. So I'm going to keep this thinking of it from the discovery perspective. How do we find them? Later on, Charlie is going to go into a bit more on how do we build more conviction. So let's say straight off the bat here, I like the look of, let's say, Pulsar. It's interesting. It's the number one in, well, no, it's the number one in smart money inflows relative to its FDV. It has 500K of smart money inflows. Something I would always also check when I'm looking here is to make sure that there's a decent amount of liquidity. Another thing here is, let's say if the inflow relative to the FDV is lower than the outflow relative to the FDV. So if you think about it, the smart money net flow relative to the FDV, if that's negative, so again, if the inflows percentage is less than the outflow percentage, that could mean more money is flowing out of smart money. So that could be a sign that smart money is actually getting out of the token. You might be thinking, okay, well, why don't we have that in here? And actually, we do. We released this version, I believe it was last week. And this gives us a whole new set of filters, or a whole new set of metrics that we can search for. So if you see here, we have the net flow by the FTB, and then we can rank by this here. And again, I'm over the 24-hour time frame, and we see unlearning is at the top here. So the net flow compared to the FTB, unlearning is at the top. So again, you can't just make your decision off this, but it can spark the next step for further due diligence, which Charlie will go into later. So last thing I'll say on Token Screener and Token Screener with this new custom view is that we've started adding some new metrics such as max drawdown, velocity. Velocity is an interesting one. It basically is a metric that measures how fast the tokens are changing hands. And if that metric is high, generally what we're seeing right now at least is, yes, a higher velocity indicates more active trading and more liquidity. That's at least what we're seeing right now. If that changes, we will adjust our strategy based on that. So from here, I'm going to jump over to AI signals now. So if we take a step back for a minute, think about what are AI signals, what are they useful for, why do we care? AI signals, their whole purpose is to surface extraordinary events on chain. So the idea is we want to see what is unusual, because usually when there is something unusual happening, that means we're going to experience volatility, whether it goes up or down. So for example, here, all of our AI signals will have a comparison to its recent average. So based on recent activity compared to current activity, this is 107x times the recent average. Now, what is 107x times the recent average? It's smart money received $300,000 of Zeno. So this is quite unusual. As we can see here, it coincided with a price increase, which makes sense. 107 times the recent average. But again, I'm going to just keep going through here because we want to focus on the discovery process. And we're also going to look at some other signals in a second. Something I do want to mention is generally, I personally don't look at stablecoin signals too much. You can also like and dislike signals so that hopefully you will see less of them and your feed will become more tailored to what you are interested in. And you can also, from here, you can create alerts and you can add a token to your watch list if it's something that interests you. So I'm going to explain some other AI signals that might be of interest here. We have Fresh Wallets. So Fresh Wallets received $23 million of ticks in the last 24 hours. It's 2.16x the recent average. It's not that much, but it is a higher market cap, or it does have a higher FDV. So maybe there's still something in there, but at least for me, it's not really jumping out at me. We see here RG 59x the recent average, and Fresh Wallets again received. So both of these received. Fresh Wallets received both of these tokens in both instances, but in one we see the price increasing and the other the price decreasing. And this is where an extra step of due diligence is very important, because again, let's say if we treat Fresh Wallets as an entity, so all Fresh Wallets, they received a total of 413 million RG. That sounds like it could be due to insider activity. We see $1 billion FDV. There's most likely something going on in the background that we can't see, and it sounds like it could be some kind of insider activity. Maybe they're moving their tokens into Fresh Wallets and then dumping from there. But up here, we have an increase. Well, why might we have an increase in this situation? Well, if you think Fresh Wallets received, a lot of the time Fresh Wallets are people that don't want their activity tracked. So let's say a fund, maybe they withdrew their assets from an exchange and are keeping them now in Fresh Wallets. And that's a sign that there's someone of interest buying, a notable entity is buying. So there are just two scenarios and two ways that you can interpret those scenarios. And I think that's all for now on AI signals. Charlie, any questions? Anything you can think of here?
Hey, James. Thanks. Was just jumping in the call. Yeah, I think it was a great overview. I think signals is really interesting in the way that it can surface what is unique and therefore actionable on chain. I think when we look at on-chain data and Nansen, other providers, etc., it can be quite difficult to really know, like, is what I'm seeing actually, like, is there alpha there? Or is this regular activity that happens each and every day on chain? And when, like, you can see a signal that compares volume against a recent average, it almost delivers the alpha directly to you in one nice, easy feed. So you don't really have to go digging for it. And really, the way I think about signals is it's almost like an initial light bulb. It's how can you like, how do you know where to look? How should you start your day? What is the potential alpha that we can explore? And with signals, not every like light bulb is going to be the brightest in the batch, right? Sometimes you see a signal and maybe it's a stable coin and maybe you're slightly less interested in that. Or maybe it's wrapped BTC, and because there's so much volume on BTC, maybe like a small change won't really have too much of an impact on the market. But when you can see like some really incredible percentages against the recent average, where maybe there's like a large amount of volume into smart money wallets, but the market cap is quite low, potentially that could suggest that it's a much stronger signal and therefore something you might want to explore a bit more. And this is actually a really great, James, because I was planning on talking about the Zeno token now, which is done 121 times the recent average. And if we look at smart money wallets receiving 350K of Zeno, compare that to the market cap, it's like there's clearly some smart money interest in this token. And given that we know that smart money, the most profitable 500 addresses, maybe they know something that I don't know. Maybe they saw the light bulb turn on before I did. And therefore, I might potentially try to look at how I can build some conviction on this token, which is exactly what I will do now. So I'm going to share my screen and we can take a look at a few things together. James, can you confirm that you can see Nansen on my...
It's just loading up. Actually, Charlie, I'm not sure if it is loading up.
I think it just takes a little second to go through.
Okay, there.
That's all good?
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, so if we just start by looking at token god mode, which is again the feature that zooms into the particular token. If I'm learning about it for the first time, potentially from a signal, I can use this description here to learn a little bit more about what it is. I can see that we have these tokens labeled as well, which is we'll come back to when James shares a bit more about sectors and narratives. But it allows you to understand that this is a meme coin. It's on Solana and it's like a community related token. So if this is in line with your trading strategy, you might decide to look into it a bit more. Maybe you only decide to play around on blue chips, which we'll take a look at in a moment. Then potentially this might not be the token for you. But there's some really interesting data that we can see here on this token under the transactions tab. And if I scroll down just a little bit, I think one of the things that I like to see the most is this who bought, who sold tab. It allows me to see if there are any smart money addresses buying the token and potentially buying it with size, right? You can see all these different labels. You can see this guy, he's top 100 on the GOAT leaderboard and he's bought 23,000. Or this address, which I think is the most interesting address here, you can see that this guy, 45.sol, I can see some of his labels here. He's considerably, or making quite a lot of money here. He's got a 94% win rate. So what that means is, of all the trades he makes, 94% of them are in profit. And over the last 90 days, he's made 900K, which is a bit of an early Christmas present, I guess, in some ways. And his net worth is 3.3 mil. So it's quite a bullish sign to see an address like this being the second largest buyer on a particular token. If I wanted to get more specific, I can double click into smart money only. And here I can see other smart money addresses that are buying. I like to then compare this to the sold. And this to me is looking much more bullish in the short term, in the way that there are far fewer smart money sellers from a dollar value perspective than there are on the buyer side, right? So potentially this is like feeding into me building conviction, or it's like you're going to use various Nansen data points to help you to be like, now is the time that I might choose to move into a position. You're never going to see one thing that gives you the big green buy button, the big red sell button. It's all about using many of these data points together to come to an investment decision. So this is just one of the few things that I look at, but there is quite a lot more as well. I often like to look at the DEX. So this here is essentially like an aggregate version of the DEX trades table, which is a live table which shows you in real time the addresses that are buying and selling. What could be quite powerful as well is you can go back to the first day of when this token was deployed. And that could be really helpful to discover the addresses that were buying tokens incredibly early. Because if they were buying tokens in like the first hour of it being deployed with size, maybe they know something, maybe these addresses know something that I potentially don't know. So these calendar views can be really powerful. And just like the smart money toggle, here we can see some of these addresses buying and selling in real time. So the most recent example, someone sold only $2,000 worth just about 23 minutes ago. But you can expect this dashboard to refresh live, and you can see that this 45.sol address, he bought about 22,000 worth about 9 hours ago. So all of this stuff is again, can help you to form conviction around something. We've also just launched a Jupiter DCA orders table, which I believe has just gone live over the last few days. And I think this is quite powerful in the way that you can see future DCA activity as well as past DCA activity. And you can see what which addresses are buying tokens over time. Maybe they're really building up a position over a much longer time horizon. And this Jupiter DCA table can be a great way to discover that. You can see whether the order is at its close, so on and so on. And when you can see maybe there are several smart money addresses in this, it can look can be quite a bullish sign. So speaking a bit more about smart money, as a really key table that I like to use to help me to build conviction. We can see down here is when the token was deployed in sort of late October. And we can see this total smart money balance represented by the dark blue line has been increasing, which means that there is Zeno token in the most profitable 500 addresses wallets on Solana. Then we can see the total number of unique smart money holders. So generally you want to see both of these lines going up and to the right, because it means that it's more diverse, there's more holders. It means that there's less of a risk that one smart money address can dump on you, and therefore you're the one that's holding the bag. And also you can see that the total balance actually in those wallets is also increasing. So this is looking quite bullish, especially given that there's been quite a sharp increase just over the last sort of day or so. So I think in the next webinar, we'll love to revisit this Zeno token to see how it performs. Here we can actually order by the value of the token to see who are the most like largest holders, and maybe what is some of their P&L data, because looking at their past P&L data can potentially be a predictor of how they're going to perform in the future. So again, we see our good friend 45.sol. He is the second largest holder, and he's actually been adding quite a large position just over the last 24 hours. So again, that's potentially something that might help you to form conviction. And you might choose to hover over some of these other addresses. Their activity is on chain as well. We've got another guy, 93%. It looks like he is a new token specialist. So which is a label that can help you to understand this individual's behavior on chain, and it means that they are active on newly deployed tokens. We can see he was also an early WIF buyer. We all know that WIF went absolutely ballistic. It was kind of like the Dogecoin on Solana, if you want to look at it like that. So interesting to see that this address is also holding this token and is the largest holder. It's also pretty key to look at balances to see how a token might be distributed, because here this isn't just for smart money addresses, but it's for other addresses as well. And we can see that there are some DEXs here, but we can actually see that these 45.sol addresses, these other smart money addresses, are actually top holders of this token, which to me could present some risks in the way that these guys are DEX traders, right? So they are looking to enter and exit positions pretty frequently. So if I was to be thinking about, do I want to hold this token into the rest of the bull run? I'm not so confident because these smart money addresses, you can expect they're going to cash out eventually. And given that they have more than 2% of the circulating supply, if they dump together, then maybe I might be the one holding the bag, right? Where if you saw a much healthier distribution here across maybe some funds, some other institutions, then potentially that might help you to say, well, maybe this is more of a long-term conviction play rather than one so short-term. But it's always interesting to see the profitability, to try to understand a bit more about how in and out of positions actually are they. So we can use 45.sol as an example here. We can see his balances, he's sitting on quite a number of Solana meme coins and not meme coins. Good friend UBC, who we covered in the last webinar, it looks like he made $70,000 on that at a 6,600% return. So interesting stuff. He's made only 39 trades. So maybe he's not in and out of positions all the time, but also given how diverse his holdings are, it seems like he's carrying and praying a little bit. Maybe he's not building such strong conviction around certain assets. So I want to compare that to another example of a token which might have a stronger conviction and something you might have explored adding to your sort of bigger bets over the cycle. And I recognize that this is a little bit out of the Solana space, but I think it's a really great example. And it actually comes from Arthur. And Arthur, founder and CIO of Default. They are a fund based in Singapore who have both largely liquid investment strategies and some venture as well. And Arthur here is quite a thought leader in the crypto space. And I would suggest giving him a follow on Twitter if you're not already, because I think we all find alpha in our different ways, right? Some find it on Nansen, just purely on chain. Some use Twitter and other groups. But where I think Nansen really shines is where you include it in your investor arsenal. It might not be the only tool that you use. It might not be the only alpha generation website you use. But if you're not looking on chain, you're missing out and you're leaving a gap in your arsenal. And frankly, you just will not be as strong of a crypto investor. If we look at this post here by Arthur, he shared a DeFi Renaissance theory or thesis, and it was basically suggesting that DeFi assets in crypto are going to grow from 1.4% of the total market cap to 10% within the next 2 years as DeFi continues to grow. However, it's been hurt and damaged by a lack of regulation or lack of clarity in regulation, challenging market conditions, so on and so on. So you might see like, okay, well, now we know that Arthur is interested in DeFi, but how do we know what token Arthur cares about? Like, he's listed so many here. Does he care about Aave? Does he care about Jupiter? And without Nansen, you wouldn't know that. And with Nansen, I can easily just come into here and I can search for Defiance, and I can see what Defiance are holding on chain. I can see this is essentially one view of the many potentially 100 addresses that we have labeled as Defiance. And we have $150 million of their assets labeled on chain. And here we can see that, there you go, Aave. It seems like Aave is their big bet at $14 million out of that 156 mil on chain. Arthur and his team are very sophisticated crypto investors, and potentially seeing what these other funds are buying and selling on chain can help you to inform your investment decisions as well, because you can tap into the minds of the true experts in the industry. If we look at Aave and we look at which we just took a look at, this looks extremely bullish if you're trying conviction. We can see down here it was dropping for a while, but in about mid-June, there was considerable size added to the balance, and it started to only increase in the number of unique holders and the total balance as well. If we order these smart money addresses by value, we can see that Defiance are the 4th largest holder of this token. And to see other funds like Blockchain, like Defiance Block Tower, DACM, like Cosmos, etc., could suggest that this capital or this the liquidity is more sticky, and could suggest that potentially based on there being larger, more reputable institutional interests, maybe this could suggest that there's less volatility on the downside. If I look at the balances, we can see a very different distribution from Zeno. We can see that there are large exchange holdings. We can see that Aave have an ecosystem reserve. We can see a fund are holding the token. So to me, this here looks a bit more bullish, especially when you then look at the token seniority distribution. You can see that most holders have actually held the token for 2+ years now. So if you're looking to build smaller term conviction plays, instead you might look at newly deployed tokens like this and tracking the investors like 45.sol and seeing what they're doing in the short term, where instead you might like to follow funds and interesting thought leaders like Arthur here and his fund to build more solid conviction bets over the remainder of the cycle. So how you build conviction in this space really depends on your trading strategies and your areas of interest. But you can use many of Nansen's features that come together to really help you to achieve your goals. That is enough from me. James, we have about 5 minutes on your side to talk more about how to win sectors and narratives before we look to move on to Q&A. I'm thinking we might run out of time for the smart alert side. So I'm thinking it might just be best to focus on some of the filters for now, and we can look at having a dedicated session on smart alerts in a future webinar, just so we can leave enough time. But thank you.
100%. That makes that makes sense for me. Yeah, let me know when you can see my screen. By the way, Charlie, sometimes when you start speaking about Nansen, I want to buy a sub.
I love it. It's one of the best perks of working at Nansen is getting free access to Nansen. It's like you, I was not the strongest investor pre-joining Nansen, and then my P&L has just gone like this after working here and getting my head around how to best use the platform. So I hope all of you watching can also experience that for the remainder of this cycle.
Absolutely. I agree. So now I'm going to speak to you guys a bit about sectors and narratives, meta, all these different ways to describe different categories of tokens within crypto. Narratives are quite important in crypto. We often have these rotations that generally happen monthly, sometimes weekly. Sometimes we have numerous narratives ongoing at the same time. Some of the basic ones you might have heard of, DeFi, real world assets, AI tokens. These are all narratives. It's all a category of tokens. Memes, I think, can no longer be called a narrative because they're so persistent. I would almost argue that now we rotate through different narrative types of memes. So we've AI memes, we've dog memes, we've cat memes, and almost these narratives rotate within themselves. So the importance of narratives is that they're very attention based. Attention is extremely important in crypto. And what we see here is that when attention is low, there's a lot of, let's say, opportunity. As attention picks up, usually there's a parabolic effect, a exponential effect, where as attention picks up, it continues through. And I want you to keep that in mind for when I describe how we might pick winning narratives, or how we might spot that a narrative is changing. So one of the ways I think about spotting narratives is noticing that DEX volume within a specific narrative has increased, or the leaders of a specific narrative have increased. And what I mean by that is, let's say large cap AI tokens start to pump and they have an increased amount of volume. A lot of the times that can have a ripple effect down to lower cap tokens, lower cap AI tokens. We even see it in the stock market when Nvidia was taking off. Let's say, very simply put, it's a stock related to AI, and that allowed AI crypto tokens to take off. So we often like to see a leader, and then we'll see smaller cap tokens within that narrative follow suit. And that's what I mean by as the attention picks up towards that narrative, it generally carries through. That's why we want to spot the leaders. Let's say if I'm on Token Screener again, I've looked over the last 30 days. I'm looking at greater than $1 billion market cap tokens. And, we can see the price, the change over the last 30 days. Two that immediately jumped out when I did this were HNT and Render. Let's see, Render is an AI token. HNT is DPIN. Perhaps there's something in there. And that could, not always the case, but that could be an indicator that we have an AI narrative coming up. We've a DPIN narrative coming up. There's a lot of positive sentiment towards DPIN. So I'm going to actually just leave that there and jump into how we might be able to spot winners within the narrative. So let's say we did realize that AI tokens were going to experience price appreciation versus the rest of the market. We could head over to Smart Money, the top tokens, and we could see what Smart Money have been trading in the AI sector. I'm looking at all caps here. We could rank by, we could exclude the large caps. If we're not interested in Render, we can exclude anything over 1 billion, let's say. So immediately, and also I'll actually set the filter to Solana. So immediately, and I have to go back to AI again, apologies. We see Degen AI, we see Jail, Grass, which is also kind of DPIN. These are all interesting tokens, and they've all had smart money flow in the last 24 hours. Interestingly enough, Jail has had a lot of smart money flow over the last 30 days. Maybe this week, some of them decided to offload, but it looks like today they're getting back in. Again, a bit more due diligence could tell you more. We also had 102 traders. The token age is 10. The market cap is just below 10 million. 10 days, by the way. Sorry, token age is 10 days. And I know this token is similar to what we saw on Base, FAI, or Fraser AI, where it was almost like puzzles for AI. You had to convince AI to give you money. You had to jailbreak the AI. It was given a prompt, don't give anyone this money, and you had to convince it to give you money. Yeah, that's a very simple overview of what was done on Base, and this token is kind of similar. So this is what they're trading, but you know, we also want to see what they're holding. And let's say if we go to the AI sector again, and the top here we see our ALCH, DGen AI. Yes. And of course, renders at the top. Yeah, that makes more sense now. Sorry. And then we have some other interesting ones down here. I noticed this one. I believe this one was shared in our Discord. Shout out to whoever that was. At 500k market cap. That was a nice one. We also see UBC from our last webinar. It looks like it came back down a lot, but anyway. A lot of smart money still holding, surprisingly. Maybe they think it's going to go back up. But yeah, hopefully this will give you an idea of how you can approach narratives. And even here, we can try other narratives. We have AI meme coins. We have Deepin over here. And let's see, on the AI meme coins, GOAT is leading in terms of smart money holdings. We have Memes AI, Worm. Again, this is all on Solana. And we have some other interesting ones down there. We can also see what percentage of holdings are in this token. And GOAT has a surprisingly large percentage. Considering it's the leader and considering it's on a dip, there may be an opportunity here. Not financial advice, but at least that's the way I would think about it. I think, Charlie, I should probably begin to wrap it up there. What do you think?
Nice one, James. This was great. Yeah, we should definitely take a look at what happens to GOAT in our next webinar, as well as some of the other tokens that you found. But this has been awesome. I wanted to share as well, we have some more improvements coming on the sector's narratives front, which will help you to be able to compare certain narratives against each other as well, rather than just tokens within a certain narrative. There are some really interesting alert features as well. We have a smart alerts feature where you can be notified on Telegram, Discord, or Slack of certain on-chain movements, and we have some sector functionality built in within that as well. So if you wanted to see on quite a regular cadence of when smart money were buying AI tokens, or maybe it's Deepin tokens, you can do that in Nansen as well, and have that alpha delivered directly to you on a nice silver platter in Telegram or Discord. So we'll definitely look to cover that in a future webinar. But before we just go into questions, I will just share my screen again very, very quickly. And there we go. So I just wanted to give another little reminder for those of you that might not have noticed, up in this corner, up the top left, you see a little QR code, which will give you 25% off annual Pioneer subscription. So everything that we have covered today is included in Pioneer. If you can also very easily click on this button here, use code, and it will take you through to a checkout page. If you buy an annual sub, you can also pay with fiat or with crypto. And bear in mind that the discount only applies to an annual subscription plan. When you're thinking about purchasing Nansen or not, it's really worth thinking about the opportunity cost that may be present by not having Nansen. Potentially you might think that having Nansen for the remainder of the cycle, you might be able to really outperform the cost of a subscription like this. So but otherwise, I think we will have some time for some questions. So yeah, we will wrap things up here from a demo front, and I will stop the screen sharing.
I might share my screen just in case there's something I can show on the platform while either of us answer.
Sounds good. So James, we have a question here. Your thoughts on Brian Armstrong's project Research Hub, RSC. So
I'm gonna go with the base one. I'm gonna assume they have more liquidity on base, considering it's a Brian Armstrong project. Head over to Smart Money. Interesting. We see Smart Money is on the rise. That's always a good sign. It took a little dip in mid-November, though. For me, I don't know, Charlie, if you see anything here.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look as well. I'm not super confident that this is indeed, it may be backed by Brian. I can't confirm that just immediately, but it looks like it falls within this sort of DeSci narrative that we've been has had a bit of a resurgence, and something that I think will actually continue to see over the remainder of this cycle. I think there's some really interesting narratives that had some legs maybe earlier in the year, like DePIN, DeSci, that I think will really make a resurgence once we get more retail interest back into crypto again. So I think whoever asked this question, you've given me some homework after this webinar, so thank you. But otherwise, like immediately just looking at this, I don't have too much to share.
Yeah, I'm pretty neutral on it. And the last thing I'll add is, let's say if there's a fundamental reason on why you like it, there could be long-term potential in it. For me, if I was to take a next step, I'd go into balances here, and I'd be looking down to see if there's any interesting addresses connected to another Smart Money address, connected to a fund, a fresh wallet, perhaps withdrawing from an exchange. And that's where I would take my next bit of due diligence. But I think we should move on to the next next question.
The next question we have is, where can you find Token Screener? So you just need to click it on the left-hand side, Tokens. And if you click into that one there, James, just a few things that are worth pointing out on this that might be a little bit hidden away is you'll actually see the chain drop down up the top left. I also noticed that we had another question on the chains that Nansen supports. So if you click into that, James, you'll see it is basically all the EVMs that you will care about plus Solana. So we are also looking to add other mainnets, and I can't give too much away here, but we will. There'll be a new mainnet that is planning to launch in, I believe, mid-January, and we aim to have analytics very early, if not for day one of the launch of that chain. So when we have a big focus on expanding our chain functionality at the moment. So if there's any chains that you don't see in Nansen that you would love to see, drop it in the comments and we will pass it on to our team.
On fire.
So could I request to see the buying and selling volumes for Bonfire? Of course. So it looks like this is on BNB.
Are we on the right one?
Okay. Before we go any further, we've got a flag, which is a risky token. So I think this is also where Nansen can be very helpful. It can help you to, and I don't want to suggest that this may not be a real asset or an asset that's worth looking into, but initially just from looking at the bought and sold, potentially I might want to think quite a lot more about if this is a token that's right for me before I would look at deploying any capital into this. The same also goes for in the halfway through this webinar, we noticed that there was a comment around a Nansen token. Just to make it very clear, we do not have a token, and currently there are no plans that I myself are familiar of us launching a token. So Nansen could be a great thing to discover scam detection as well.
One thing I'll add on this bonfire token, this may not be the right one. Sometimes if a token is very new in the search bar, some of the older tokens that would have had more clicks previously may have shown up. So perhaps it could be one on base that we're not sure about. But that other one didn't look like it had too much activity. But then again, there wasn't, I don't think there was price data on it yet. Again, if it was extremely new, maybe there was an abnormality there. But yeah, I think we won't be able to share anything on that one at the minute.
James, we've just had another question come through about can you validate the TVL for a certain token? I think this is the last question that we'll take, but TVL is generally more used around the concept of a liquidity pool, but we can take a look at, James, if we just want to take a look at a token like Aave, for example, which we've covered in this. Nice. You can see the market cap and the FDV, which shows you the circulating supply value versus the total circulating supply if it was fully available. But if you go to the exchanges tab up the top there in token gold mode, this can be helpful to understand how liquidity is, how much liquidity there is in certain pools on tokens. So there we can see on the right hand side, it looks like a lot of the TVL, that doesn't look, if you just go to the second page, yeah, so we can see there's quite massive amounts of liquidity on Balancer and also some of these other pools. But even if we just took a look at Zeno, James, I think it can be quite difficult to know on Solana what DEX you might want to use to execute certain trades. Are you going to execute on Jupiter? Is it Radium? Is it another DEX? And using the exchanges tab here can give you an idea of how much liquidity, if you just stay at the top there. So top exchanges, we can see for this token, there's more balance on Radium. So it's more likely that you're going to be less impacted by slippage if you were to make a buy order on Radium rather than making a buy order on Jupiter. So we're still just working towards building out proper LP functionality on Nansen, but this can give you a good platform, an idea of what DEX is best for me, especially if you're looking to buy larger amounts of tokens, because basically the whole of Solana space at the moment is all happening on chain. So ensuring that you get the best execution is really key so that you're not losing percentages on each trade. But yeah, so I think we will wrap things up here for today. Again, you can see the little code there, NSN EOY 25, to get an annual 25% off an annual Pioneer plan. We will be doing these webinars more often if you find them helpful. So we'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. If you registered for the event via the Luma, you will get a feedback form. You can also drop a comment on Twitter if you found this helpful. Our handle is Nansen_AI. Let us know in the comments there if you'd like to see more of these. And we hope that we can win on chain with you in the altcoin space on Solana for the rest of the market cycle. So drop your GNs in the chat wherever you are. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day or your evening. But otherwise, thank you very much for tuning in.
Thank you very much, guys. I'll just echo Charlie's comment on feedback. If there's anything you would like to see, please let us know. If you still have any questions as well, feel free to drop them on the Twitter post. And I don't mind going back through some of them. Yeah, the more feedback we get, the better we can make it for you. And apart from that, thank you very much.
Bye, folks.
All the best.